You're catching us at the tail end of a vacation, coming off of a week with the family for spring break, leaving Virginia, and we decided to record one of our conversations in here because we've got 4 hours and some change. We've got enough time to record a couple episodes in
As I say,
here.
this is the conversation. Hopefully, it's not going to be 4 hours.
It might be. It might be. It might be.
It
Who
could.
knows? We.
I mean, that would be a lot, but it could.
But today's conversation, we thought that we'd hit on a topic that kind of flushed through one of our phones, my phone actually to be exact, on I think it was yesterday. Even though our signal was terrible where we were, but it was just enough for us to do what we needed to do while staying off our phone and staying focused on family and the experiences and excursions we had. We got plenty of excursions. We're leaving Virginia, Shenandoah Valley, and man, we had an incredible time. But we were talking about a topic hit my phone, and it was talking about something that it was an old topic, something that I had thought about a while back ago, and it kind of made me feel in a way like I don't know, it brought about like a hopelessness of like um what do I do with that? What do I do with that? How do I feel about that? Where do I go with that? Like, is it a point? What is the point? Um and the time in which I had initially thought about this topic was when I was getting to a point where I realized that what I held inside, I couldn't keep it to myself, and I couldn't just ignore some of the thoughts and the feelings and different things that I bottled up. And so it was like, well, where do I take this stuff? And the first thought was, okay, well, you know, initially when I first thought about this stuff, it was when me and you weren't talking, we weren't speaking.
We were separated. Yes.
Yeah, I know we always say that, and people are like, "Man, when were you guys separated?" We want to hear more about this separation, and maybe we'll talk more about that in one episode one day. Maybe of
Have
how
people
we.
said that?
I'm sure you can't.
Oh,
You can't. We can't say we were when we were separated. We can't say that in just about every other episode, and people not be like, "Okay,
yeah.
what happened? Like, how are you guys?" So I know that that's eventually
Yeah.
something we're going to talk about. But yes, she said we're keeping with the trend when we were separated, and and so my first thought wasn't to bring the stuff to her, but it was like, is there ever a point where I can bring, I can show up authentically, fully, honestly with where I'm at, how I'm feeling, and share that with her? And at the time, it wasn't even a thought. It was like, okay, I need to find people. And the first group of people was a therapist. I started with talking to a therapist about a lot of the stuff that I had bottled up for a long time, a lot of the stuff that I had ignored and moved away from. Um, and then later, eventually, those conversations begin to and begin to be flushed out between me and her. But the first thought that always crossed my mind was like, in the past, whether it was with her or somebody else, if I brought what I was feeling, how I was feeling about things, um, the thoughts that were formulated from how I was feeling, that it would turn into a moment where I had to address how that made you feel instead of leaning into what I was feeling. And even thinking about that, it was just like, wow, it's pointless. Like, what's the point, like, of even expressing how I feel, because it, it will turn into a moment where I have to address your emotions based on how I feel, instead of us talking about why I feel that way, how I feel, and where maybe that even came from. Recognizing that not all of our feelings are always true, but but in order to get there where I can see that, wow, that was a lie that came from a thought, that turned into a feeling that there wasn't a lot of truth in. And so I say all that to say that, like, is there space? And this is not just, I mean, I'm asking the question, but I'm pretty sure that maybe other men or women that tune in may say, is there space to feel some type of way, to experience and have stuff that they need to flush out? Is there safety to do that with your partner without it becoming a thing where your partner now feels some type of way, that you would even say that you would even feel that way, and how that then in turn makes them feel? And I'm just going to go ahead and put this out there. I recognize that even in bringing back up this conversation, it felt uncomfortable. It felt very like, why even go there? Why have the conversation? Because it just, so people like to just put it as, it is what it is. And
Well, I will say though, the video that you showed me, or the thing that came up on your feed, was not a universal experience that it was talking about. They were specifically speaking about men. So are we specifically speaking about men, or are we saying this like universally people experience this? Because I think those are two very different conversations.
Yeah. I think that's fair. Yeah, I think specifically they were speaking just about men.
So,
and
but what are we specifically addressing?
Specifically, I think that it's fair to say that as men, we I think we carry that more so than women.
What you believe?
What I believe.
Okay.
What I believe.
Because I would argue that women would have the same exact, that we have the same exact experience, but you all take, but that's not. But if we're not speaking about women, then I don't want to get sidetracked to speak about women. I would say that I can, yeah, there's a lot of women, myself included, that would have said, well, or that would say that we experience the same thing. That we have to avoid certain topics because of whether it's ego or pride or respect or all these different things that we're not allowed to bring to you all equally.
Okay.
And so I think that's where
So this is a great way. Is this a conversation that can even be had without it being like, well, what about us? Either way.
I think, I don't know. If I'm being honest, I don't know. I think, and I said, we briefly spoke about it, and then he put me on pause to have this conversation in the car. But I think that no matter female or male, if you find yourself in a relationship, which we have found ourselves in this, so this is not a judgment, like a statement, but if you find yourself in a relationship where you feel that bringing, I guess that's the other thing. Like, what are we bringing to the other person? Because I've had this issue, even you and I've had, if I come to you and say, hey, me and you, let's say a year ago, had sat down and we looked at finances and we were like, hey, we're going to do a debt-free journey. And I come to you a year later and I come to you to say, hey, I've had a side credit card and I've racked up 30 grand in debt, even though we're supposed to be paying off debt. Am I expecting you to be the safe space? Am I expecting you to not have a reaction? Am I expecting you to not have to consider and think about what you're like? What are we talking about when we're saying a safe space, and or like what we're bringing to the other person? Because like would you like be like, okay, thank you for sharing that with me in that moment? Because essentially I've lied to you. Essentially I've deceived you.
Mm-hmm.
So if I come, male or female, if they come to you with some sort of deceit or lie or some way in which they have deceived you,
mm-hmm.
Is that what we're talking about when we're saying?
Well, I don't think it always has to be deception. It could be, as I've said in the past, it could be that, like, I don't know why, and this is a premature thought, back when I used to believe that, like, your role is to make me happy, right? Okay, so let's just let's just think about that for a second. And let's say I come to you and I just say I'm not happy. Um, and you also believe that your role is to make me happy. Then at that point, I am now. It's almost like I've come to you with a performance review to say, hey, look, by the way, your
And
performance review says that you're currently not.
you're telling me not to take that personal.
And I'm asking you to listen to me, to hear me out, and to let me address why, without you, like, showing up in your personal, not your work, but your personal review of why I don't feel happy right now, and hear me out, and on top of that, give me the space to express, while giving me the safety. And when we say safety, I think sometimes safety is just like, don't have like an emotional outburst and flip this, make this about you. I think that's what anybody would be saying, because even what you just said was like, don't like, if I brought the
No, I'm
fact that
saying you would. I'm saying you would
no,
make that.
well, okay, can we
Oh,
hold on.
sorry.
I'm simply saying, like, but what you're expecting is like, okay, um if I brought to you that I had run up a debt of, like, a huge debt on a card, when we're supposed to be honest about our bills, I don't want you to turn around and be like, yo, I can't believe you lied to me all this time. It's like, what I would like is you to be like, okay, I'm going to come down before, maybe might need to take a walk or something. Maybe I might need to just take a moment to, like, process what you just said. Because if you're asking me to be like, oh, okay, yeah, it's all right, like, in the moment, I might need to get there by um um bringing down my, right now, uh, uh, my reaction, how I immediately feel, and my nervous system is, like, heightened. So I need to almost, like, bring my nervous system down to where I can actually respond to you, to where you can actually say, okay, so I can recognize that what I just brought to you might have been like a punch in the gut. That might have been, I'm sure I caught you off guard, and I'm asking you to respond to that in a calm, cool, collective way, even though I just was like, surprise. And
As much as I hear you, I think that is literally roses and sunshine. Like, that is not in an everyday relationship. That is not, when you are blindsided. I think to expect that of someone, I feel like, to a degree, it's interesting, because not only are you bringing something to them that could potentially heavily impact their life, because even if we go with this is the way I'm not happy, right? There's a level of, like, depending on how this conversation is going, depending on how it's breached, there are different ways. But if we're going with the example that you just had, and you come to me and are saying, like, hey, these are the ways you're not making me happy, what you're telling me is, if I don't do these, I'm going to be unhappy, which in anyone's mind then leads to, I'm going to leave, right?
not
Or,
anybody's mind, your mind. Let's
okay,
just be
well, fine.
specific.
Yeah, my mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting that you're trying to control the other person's reaction to your feelings. Like, you're trying to control the person you're telling. I would hope that they would respond. And so really what it sounds like is, because you don't have control of another person, you are uneasy or unable to come to them with your feelings. But the job is not to control your partner. Like, your job, like, you trying to control my reactions, or how much I react, or how much I don't. Now, do I feel like there are boundaries? For sure. Should you throw things? Should you cuss and scream and go? Like, there should be boundaries to reactions. But if someone has a reaction, an emotional reaction to something, I think that trying to control that.
You're saying that's warranted. That should be the norm. That should be,
I'm not.
well.
No, I didn't say it was the norm. I'm not saying that it's the norm, or even more. I think what I'm saying is, controlling how someone reacts to something you say is a non-starter for me.
Okay, so I
So,
think I agree with
and
that. So
because even people do this online all the time, like when someone's grieving, well, they don't really look like they're that sad. Why are you controlling the way someone is reacting to a situation? Why are you giving them a barometer and like, do you measure up on how sad or how happy or how whatever you are? Like, if I'm in a relationship with you, you need the safety, yes, to come say things. So yes, there should be boundaries around my reaction, but also I need the safety to be able to be who I am and have the feelings that I like, that would naturally, if I came to you and said that I had ran up thousands of dollars in debt, I would expect an angry reaction. Now, does that mean that you beat me? No.
let's say let's say you didn't get the angry reaction you were expecting. That's just a one off. That's just a like, okay, like there must be something wrong here.
Not necessarily. Again, I think even thinking that you are trying to control and guess someone else's reactions.
Well, yeah, you just said that. You just said that I would expect it. So you're trying to control and guess how I
No,
would react.
I'm not saying I would. No, okay, but I'm not. If you don't react like that, I wouldn't. I'm not going to be like, well, why didn't you react like that? Like, again, your reaction is your reaction. Everyone, because the thing when you're telling someone, and you and I have talked about this, when you tell somebody something, the message that they get may not be what you have said. So, when you have come to someone with your feelings, I think what they are hearing you say and how they are intaking that is not necessarily maybe what you were even intentionally trying to say. So you could come to me and say, hey, I don't like the color blue on you. I don't know, I'm just throwing out a random, right? And I could take that to say he hates when I dress in any colors. And so then I dress in all neutrals, right? Like, yes, it seems crazy, but honestly, that's not too far off from a lot of things that we've internalized or, overgeneralized or whatever. So I think the point is, I think, not the point is, but the whole like thing that we watched was all about like how men can't go home until they're significant and they love their wives and they're not able to tell them how they feel because of their reactions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that can be true. And I think that is a symptom of a problem versus that is the problem. The problem is not that the woman overreacts, which is what most men say. Well, my wife just overreacts. No, there's an underlying problem. Could it be in the relationship, like a dynamic you guys have created? Is it something that maybe she has walked through or dealt with that has nothing to do with you, but that causes these unpredictability or things like that, like cause her to have emotional reaction? Is it something that maybe you have done in the past that then kind of brings that back up when you guys are having these conversations? I think the woman's reactions are more of a symptom of a problem, of an underlying problem. But I think we're so focused on, well, let me just and I think women and men alike, I think you can get in a relationship.
Are you speaking you're speaking from the female perspective, not the man's perspective, right? What
do you mean?
Like what you're saying right now is that
I'm saying,
like you're saying that the underlying issue is from your perspective is rooted in it's not the issue, it's a symptom of the issue. But you're saying that like when you guys, like, let's say if I bring something to you, if you were to respond however you respond, that would make me say, see, I knew I couldn't bring that to you because now I'm like saying, hey, look, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I brought that up. I'm sorry. Maybe this now wasn't a good time or whatever. It's not really what I brought up. It's there's something else behind.
No, it could be what you brought. That's what I'm saying. I think you'd have to address the situation and the dynamic of that couple. I don't think you can just put a blanket rule. What I'm saying is, I think if you have a relationship in which, and I think when I say, I don't know, because I feel like there's this weird unattainable goal of like, every time I bring my spouse something, a male brings a wife or a girlfriend, she has to remain calm, cool, and collected and just take it in. Like, some of the stuff you've brought to me, like, I was just supposed to remain calm, cool, and collected. Like, I just think that is the most
All right,
immature.
let's be specific. Hold on. Let's be specific here. Let's say and let's say I come to you and I'm like, yo, and I'm gonna paint this before you begin to talk. I come to you, and I've had a rough week, and I'm upset at just a lot of different things that have happened at work. I'm disappointed about a lot of different things. But let me paint your picture as well. You've had a rough week as well. You've had a rough week with the kids and everything else like that. And so I'm bringing this to you, and I'm sharing how, like, it hasn't gone the way I expected. Like, work was a lot harder than I expected, and the way people were responding, and the way I experienced people around me at work, everywhere else, just seemed like it was just heightened. And so I'm bringing all of this to you, and as I begin to share with you, you may respond, and I'm just painting this out, just to give an example of, like, you may respond from, like, oh, yours was rough too? Like, well, let me tell you how crazy mine was. And I end up in turn being like, wow, man, I'm sorry. Yeah, like, I see how, like, that was really, like, crazy. I'm really sorry. Uh, how can I make your week better? How can I make your weekend better?
There's so many things in that story that make me laugh. In this scenario. Number one, it is funny, as you were saying that, if I were to go out to coffee with my girlfriends, and I were to be like, my week was like, it is not unheard of for another friend to chime in and be like, yeah, girl, let me tell you about my week. That is not an unheard of. That is an actual, like, dynamic that women have.
And do you feel like when that happens, how does that feel to you?
Honestly, for me, it's a normal dynamic.
Okay.
So it's not necessary. Now, like, it's almost like a commiserating, like almost like a empathy, like a way to show, like, yep, girl, I get it. Like, I can imagine I'm dealing with this, I'm dealing with that. Like, it's like almost a way to, like, be like, you're not alone. So number one, if it is just that, like that, because there's another way, and I'm gonna get to that in a minute, but if it's just like, oh, that's how she responds, it may not be that she's even trying to get you to console her. She is more just trying to identify, to be like, yeah, man, I get it. Like, I've had a hard week too. Not in like a comparison game, or a one-up game, but more of like a commiserating or empathy. However, I think what more often happens.
But hold on, I don't want to go to more what happens. Okay, go ahead.
What?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Because there is a scenario of that same conversation happening, and where she's like, well, let me tell, and her tone says, I'm not asking you to commiserate. What I'm telling you is I don't want to hear about your week because my week has been this way. That's a different, like, she could be like, well, let me tell you about my week.
Right.
So again, I think it depends on the dynamic in the actual conversation.
So back to what I was saying though, either way, no matter which one, if I felt like a friend did that, if a friend did that, then I would be like, wow, they just invalidated, like, how I was feeling. Now, there wasn't even like, dang, that sucks, bro. Like, I'm really sorry to hear. They just, no matter which way they did it, they just invalidated what I was saying. So yeah, let's hear more about yours. But in a partner case, if my partner would begin to do that, either way, I would feel invalidated, not just from a, like, dang, I can't believe my friend, but now it's like my partner just like either one-up me or was like, let me tell you about mine. And it's just like,
and if that is the case, but see, if that's how you feel, let's say it is more of like a commiserating, like, empathy thing. She's not, because first of all, coming to someone that you've had a hard week, unless they have not been supporting you at home or in whatever way that they have agreed to support you, like, really, there's nothing for you to fix. You have hard weeks. Life is hard. So you going into fix-it mode is not helping either. Let's just point that out. And male going into fix-it mode because I've had a hard week is not helpful. Unless it's like, hey, I asked you. But
we just flipped back over. So you brought back up you brought up like the topic that the male brings it to the female.
What do you mean?
And if a male, well, like,
you said, okay.
If a male brings something to his wife, to his spouse, to his girlfriend, and says how he had a rough week.
Right, and she comes back with it, then you said that then the male feels like he needs to fix it.
No.
That is what you said.
No.
Well, we can play it back because you did say that. But I got you. We'll take out the fix it part. Is that better?
No, it's not even about the fix it part. It's about the fact that, like, if a male brings to you that he's had a rough week, if you're trying to make him feel like he's not alone by saying, yeah, I did too, you missed it.
But that is not on the female to figure that out. That is on a male to let a female know that his female know that does not speak empathy and commiseration to me. That's a part of communicating. Because if that is what, and vice versa, what if when she comes to tell you how she's had a hard day and you go into fix it mode, or let me make you feel better, and she's like, no, I just want you to sit here and commiserate with me.
Yeah,
like,
but
so my thing is, you can make them the villain. You can make your spouse that you're not listening to me. But if you are feeling that and you don't communicate, like, that's not what I'm coming to, and yes, maybe there needs to be, I guess you would say, well, there's no safe space to do that.
I think every dude knows that we're all fixers, and that like we by default sometimes we try to fix things when we should listen. And so I don't think that's the conversation that's going to make anybody say, oh well, that's a shocking point. I think, once again, to get back on the topic that you actually brought up, was that if a male brings the situation to his wife, it's not about what he in turn does to the women. It's how do we bring hard situations? They don't even have to be hard. How can we bring situations to you? Like, I recognize that in that conversation. Hey, can you listen to me, please? How can we, like, it's easy. I won't say it's easy, but it is easy for men to sit down and say, yeah, I know that feeling. Like in that particular clip, there were two men sitting there, both like, I know what that's like. But how can we bring that same conversation to you to say, right now, I feel like every time I bring a situation to you, I almost have to communicate to you how I want you to react, which is fair, which is valid. I don't want you to try to fix this right now. I don't want you to feel like you got to respond to this. I just want to be heard. And I would, and you know, I'm not even asking you to address it in any specific way, but I need to be heard without me having to turn around and deal with how it makes you feel at the current moment. We may continue this conversation to where you can say, now, by the way, you know, in listening to you, I do want to respond to say that kind of made me feel this way. But in the moment, I would like to share what I've been wrestling with. And I would just like a space where we don't even have to label the space, but I would just like a space where I could fully get out my thoughts without it becoming a back and forth. Like, let me get all of this out, and you let me know that you heard me, however that may sound.
Okay. Okay. Like, I don't know what then there's no question. You're telling me what, like, there is nothing to talk about. Like, if that's what you want, there's nothing to talk about. I think initially I did not want to do this conversation because there is no conversation to be had on this. There is no middle of the road. There is no, okay, there is a way in which I can show up like this, and if she shows up like this, then we can have it. No, it's that you want what I heard. Again, I just said this earlier, that, like, there's a message. What I heard was, I want to be able to say whatever I want to be able to say, and you need to react the way I'm comfortable with, so that I can get all this out. Okay, that's not a conversation. That's not an agreement. That's not a compromise. This is what I want. I need you to do
So what
this.
would you say? How would you? Let's. I mean, let's go into live. Let's get out of the sandbox and let's actually do this for a second. Like
Well, right
uh
now you have me. I don't think it's very, and I've said this a lot, and I've learned this with kids. Having a logical conversation in an emotional state is never smart. Like,
are
is
we emotionally charged right now?
I am. I mean, I'm allowed to be.
No. I trust me. I knew that already. I was just asking since
Right.
you
You're a little bit baiting me, and I don't
I'm
love.
not.
That's where my emotionals come. Is there's a little bit of baiting going on, and I don't really love that.
Okay, so let's go into that. Why do you feel baited right now?
First of all, the conversation in itself, this topic is baiting. This is where men feel. Okay, then I really shouldn't be a part of the conversation. I'm not a male. Because anything I say, well, you're not a man. Okay, well then why have me a part of the conversation? Why me? Really, you want me to hear the conversation and understand it. You don't necessarily want me to participate in a conversation. Because I'm not a man and you don't want to hear a woman's side.
Was it
You made that,
is
hold
it
on.
important?
No. You made that very clear at the beginning.
Okay. Is it important for you to understand how men feel, even if you can't have a opinion for men?
Say that again.
Is it important for you to understand how men feel, even if you can't have an opinion for men?
Yes. But for a conversation, for like a podcast conversation, there's no conversation to be had at that point.
Well, sure there is. I mean,
No, you tell me, and I just sit here and be like, okay.
You can be inquisitive. You can have questions. Like,
I don't have questions though. I don't have questions. I've listened to you. You and I have had this conversation. You have told me about this. You have sent me clips. I have watched clips. I have watched men on your podcast have these same conversations. I don't have a question. Do I feel like it's a one-sided conversation? 1000%. But that is what it is. Like if there's not really, it does not feel like there is a point in which there is actually trying to be a resolution other than, hey, fix your feelings when I'm talking to you. Like, don't let your feelings or your emotions come out when I'm talking to you about stuff. That's the solution. Like, I don't want to have to handle your emotional reactions to what I have to say. And so that's not really is there a conversation to be had in that?
There could be. I mean, I think there's a curiosity. There's an inquisitive desire to like understand why, how does that look? I think
How does what look?
like, okay, so if we like, let's flip it now real quick for a second. Like, if you were to say the same thing to me, I would say to you, and it's just my thoughts. What is it when?
No, that's what
like,
you believe you would say to me.
Oh no, I'm asking you what I would say to you now. I mean,
You're asking me what
well,
you would.
well, we can have it. I mean, you bring it to me, and
I
I'll
don't
tell you
know.
what I believe I would say.
Are we speaking from a male's perspective or a female's perspective?
Female's perspective.
Oh, I don't. Ha. That's completely different because I can bring something to you. I'm trying to think of like an example right now, and
Yeah, bring one that like really gets me like just wrecks me.
no, I don't bring those to you. I think there is a weird assumption on males' parts that we have on a male part or like a husband part or whatever, that we are out here just pouring our hearts out to y'all. We're not. We don't tell you guys our disappointments. We don't tell you guys the life that we thought you guys promised us and that we didn't get. Like, we don't come to you guys with all that. No, we don't.
Why is that?
Because it's not safe. Just like you're saying, like, that's what I'm saying. You guys are asking for something as if that's what women have. And so I think this is where, because you specifically brought up somebody's comment and was like, let the men talk. That's what you told me, because it was a female's comment to this video.
Oh yeah, no, hold on. Let's be specific.
What?
Yeah, in the video, two guys were saying how, like, hey, look, we just don't feel safe bringing sometimes some of our stuff to our wives or whatever. And I started reading comments, and a lady said, why don't y'all just go to therapy? Like,
no, she said men.
No.
No, she didn't say why don't y'all. She said men go to therapy and heal. That's what she said.
Okay, men go to therapy and heal.
That's what she said. I know. Well, you were being specific. And your response was what?
No matter how, it was
No, what
almost,
was your
my
response?
response was, hey, wait a minute. Hold on. How are you going to
That's
tell
not
us
what
to
you
go to
said.
therapy and heal? I don't remember exactly what I
You
said, but I'm
said,
telling you how I
you
felt
said,
right now.
ma'am,
I
let the
felt like,
men talk.
ma'am, come on, really? Like, how are you
What?
going to jump into this conversation and tell us to go to therapy when we're saying, when in this situation, they're both going to therapy, but they're wishing that they could bring some of the stuff they have to their wives. This is not about going to therapy. They're both going to therapy, but they're saying that I wish that I could bring some of this to the women in our lives. So it's not about
But you're,
them not going to therapy. It's not about us not
yes,
going to
right.
therapy.
Okay.
In this situation, men are, I know a lot of people hold on to the idea that men don't go to therapy. No, there are a lot of men going to therapy now. But then there's this idea that, or this thought, or this feeling that, like, hey, look, could I bring some of these situations that I talk about in therapy
I don't think
to the
that's what
woman in
she
my
was
life?
saying, but
And you know what? We won't know what she's saying, but I'm just telling you how I initially felt, which I don't think is invalid. I
no.
think how I initially felt was that, like, ma'am,
But
ma'am,
but then to turn around and
ma'am,
ask me to have a conversation about it when you
I'm
told
not asking you to have a conversation from her perspective. I'm
no,
not
no, I'm not
asking you
talking
to
about her
answer for
perspective.
her. I'm just trying to say, let's have this conversation about, like, why is it, why is it that what does it, not even why, because you can't speak for why across the board, but what is it that makes it very hard to hold what we may be experiencing in the midst of all that you experience that you just said we don't even bring to you all.
Again, I said this already. I think there is a question of dynamics. A dynamic there. Two people create a dynamic in a relationship. It is not. It is always co-created. It is not created by one person. So a female cannot create that dynamic all on her own. She cannot. And a male cannot create that dynamic all on his own.
Sure.
It is a co-created dynamic. So if
Right.
you have that dynamic in your relationship and it is something that it is something that bothers you, struggle, and that is a struggle for you, then my question would be then, okay, what's feeding that dynamic? Is it that you are afraid of emotions and that you run, or is it that she doesn't maybe have the emotional intelligence to maybe learn how to because I mean, I don't want to overlook that some people could inappropriately react as well, like in their emotions, right? And so, is it that she hasn't maybe learned? Is there already a place where I'm not this, and I'm going to say this knowing that I'm going to probably get backlash from you. I don't even care about anybody else, but is there a place where have you ever created safety for her either? Like, I know, like, is it just that like you want her to be your wife, but then or to be the mother of your kids, but you don't even know what she's struggling with daily to even know. You don't even
Sure.
know the demons she fights, but then you want to come and just throw all your demons on her as well. Like it might be too much for her to hold.
Right.
Like
No, for sure.
there are, and so I think it's a dynamic that is created. I think the
Almost
reasoning,
like where you hold on to your stuff, I hold on to my stuff. You shut up, don't tell me about what you're going through, and I won't tell you about what I'm going through. But the day you decide that you want to cross that line and begin to tell me what you're going through, knowing that's not what we do, then how dare you?
I think
Like
you're saying it
I've
very more,
carried
you're
enough.
saying it much more sinister than I would say. I think it's more of a desperation. Like I literally, here's my thing. I have my hand, when your hands are full and someone asks you to open the door, what do? You
I
don't
don't
open the
know.
door
Okay.
or you
Do you
drop
communicate?
everything.
Do you communicate that, hey, I can, or do you communicate that you can
But
you
you've
see
already
that I?
said that's not like, then do you communicate that you can't? Sometimes I think some people just look and they just look at you like, you see my hands are full. Do I need to communicate that? Now, in a conversation, that is a different, like you're having a conversation, there's not physical things in your hand. So I would think, yes, you should probably communicate that. And I think as human beings, we think our stuff is bigger than the other person's. I think we do. I think when we are struggling with things and when we have things going on and we bring that to someone, and then they are like, basically, even if they were to look at you and be like, I don't think I can hold this right now, you would still feel invalidated. You would still feel unseen. You would still feel like I can't tell her anything, even though she has very clearly communicated, like, I don't have it in me to hold this right now.
Do you ever feel like, okay, it's like, but can't you see that I got my hands full? Can't you see that I got more than I asked for? Like, can't you just see that? So, like, why would you bring that to me right
Well,
now? Go take that to
I
somebody
think what
else.
gets frustrating is oftentimes women feel like they have communicated, they have said, "Hey, this is stressing me out," or they have been like there. I think sometimes, and I'm not gonna. I have heard. I would not say this is my experience. So let me be very clear. I am not speaking from a personal experience. I have heard other women said, "I made it very clear to him that I could not continue to do life this way. I was overworked, or I had too much going on, or did it like I actually recently watched a thing. It was like just a clip, but it was a guy basically saying like, my wife oddly goes to bed at like 7:30 to 11:30, and then she wakes up and then she gets all this stuff done for the day, and then she'll go to bed for like another 3 hours. He was like, it's like she's avoiding me in bed. And the person he was calling into was like, sir, there is much more bigger red flags than her not being in the bed with you. Like the fact that your wife's nervous system is so dysregulated because she worked a full-time job, she had 3 kids. The fact that her nervous system is so dysregulated that she cannot actually just go to sleep like a normal person is a huge red flag. And so I think sometimes women feel like they have said things and men just do not listen.
Or don't respond according to what they said. Like, okay, like maybe you heard me, but maybe like the way you're responding is
But
though it doesn't
hearing doesn't
matter or
mean
doesn't right.
listening.
Well, hearing doesn't mean that you even know what to do with that. Like I heard you, but I don't know what to do with
But
that. I
right,
don't
if
know
I've
how to
told you
respond.
all week how this, and this, like I've had it, like all this is going on, and then you come to me and you have heard me all week,
Hmm.
but there's been no like validation or acknowledgement, not even fix it, but even just like a validation.
Hmm.
And then you come to me and you're like, but I need you to hold my feelings now.
Well, there's hold on. There's a difference in like you coming to me and saying, "Hey, listen, like I have been so stressed this week and I have so much on my plate that right now for you to ask me to cook dinner right now or to care for the kids this weekend would be too much." So what I am telling you is not only am I telling you like how crazy my week's been, but also I am asking for the space to not have to consider this. Think about this. Like think about how sometimes you'll say to me, "Hey, look, right
I just
now."
can't do dinner.
Yeah. So listen, right. So I don't have to guess. I don't have to guess
Right.
like what you can or can't do. I know at this point, I'm cooking dinner tonight.
And I think that's a healthy dynamic you and I have created. I will say that there is a lot of women who do not have that dynamic in their marriage.
So it's almost like they come home and they say, "Listen, I am spent. I am
They
over the
can't even
moon.
say that.
So at this point, just don't talk to me." And so he may be sitting back, like still waiting on you to cook dinner, but like you sitting over there, like, did he not just hear me? No, I
Yeah,
just heard
no.
you say that you were spent. You didn't say that you didn't want to cook dinner, so I'm still waiting
But
on you
I
to
don't
cook
even
dinner.
think that
Still waiting you to
I
take.
would say that there are some women who feel like they couldn't even say, I'm not going to cook dinner. They are there to perform, and that is what the expectation is. And so that
That
is,
has not always been the case with us. Okay, so
no,
I
no,
don't want
no.
people. Yeah. So like we've gotten to this place, but back then, like there would be a moment where like I could see she's overwhelmed, but I didn't know that that overwhelmness meant that like if I came to you and said, "Hey, look, what are we eating for dinner?" was going to throw you off the bridge, and me too. Like I'm gonna throw you off the bridge first, then I'm gonna
Right.
throw myself
A
off the
lot of
bridge.
that,
Like
though,
I'm
was
going to
me,
explode. I'm going to blow up this entire house.
but
You in it.
but a lot of that was me learning to one voice when I was there. I had to first recognize I was getting there because I oftentimes did not even know that's where I was headed. Like I didn't even realize it until it would happen and be like, whoa, to you becoming a safe place to where like I could say that and that I could trust that you would pick it up for me, and it wouldn't be like, well, I had like it wouldn't be like a stressor on you to just help me pick it up. Like there was a lot of work that had to be done even in that small adjustment. Like it was not just a one day I did it and it was like, oh yeah, this works. It took a lot of learning on my part, speaking up on my part, and then two, learning to trust you in that. So I think the same could be applied to the conversation of like the feeling thing. Like it's a dynamic issue. That's why I said it's a symptom. It's not the actual problem is that women don't, is not. I guess this is, I think, where it angers me or women get angry. I don't know if all women do. Maybe I'm the only one where it's like, we're not saying we don't want to hear from you. That's not what we're saying. We're not sitting here saying like men shouldn't have feelings. None of us are saying that.
Mhm.
I think there is a dynamic that has been created and you are asking me to fix this dynamic on my own. And that's where, like, if you would just react better, this would be better. And it's like, no, it's a dynamic. It was co-created. Even if I sit and listened, I probably wouldn't do it right, number one. But number two, there's more going on than just my reaction that's creating all this.
Right.
And so I'm not saying that men should not have that space. I'm not saying that their wives should not. I think we should also always caveat that, like, there are going to be certain conversations if you have been lying or deceitful or cheating, or like if you take that to your wife, you probably should expect a reaction. And if you don't feel safe
because of what has happened in the past, what's transpired, that she's still working through on top of what you are bringing right now.
Well, no, I'm not even talking about that. I'm saying if that's the conversation you're bringing to them. You should probably expect a reaction. No, I'm not talking about like, that might be a dynamic that you all need to consider if that's been your history. I'm talking about, like, if that is the conversation that you're saying, I don't feel safe bringing her, you might not should feel safe bringing that conversation to her. Like, you might need to have a third party to be able to help you guys have that conversation.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
I think being thoughtful in what I'm bringing. Now, if I'm bringing you, hey, we haven't been intimate the way that I, the frequency in which that I would like, right?
By the way, just pause for a second.
Yeah.
This is being intimate, real quick. I
thought you meant like we were actually pausing the video.
Yeah, no, like pause. I hold that, like put a pin in it. This is being intimate.
It's a type.
This is a form of being intimate. I would say that this form of intimacy brings us closer than any other form of intimacy, because even though you probably witnessed her nervous system being very heightened at the beginning, and now you're witnessing it come down. I don't know if y'all are witnessing it coming down, but I'm witnessing it coming down. But this form of intimacy bridges, it builds bridges in areas that other forms of intimacy, if you know what I'm saying, just won't build those bridges. Because all that does is just it's a form of reconnection where our bodies connect, but it does our pain, our hurt, and other different things are not connecting. It's not connecting. So continue. I just wanted to throw that out there, just because
I'm saying, like, that would be a conversation that I think women could find offensive, could have a lot of feelings about, could then turn around and it feel like men would have to console them. I think that's a pretty common, from my understanding, conversation, and one that does create a lot of tension or uneasiness within marriages. And I think that, again, I think it's more of a dynamic issue. Like, there's other things going on that's contributing to that conversation, whether it's, hey, your wife has, maybe she's gone through perimenopause. Maybe she's just had a bit, like, maybe it's none of that stuff and she doesn't know it could be a myriad of things, right? Maybe it's her relationship with sex throughout her entire life that is now impacting her, or whatever. So I think that oftentimes the reaction is more of a clue as to the underlying problem.
If I'm willing to go there.
If you're willing to go there.
If I'm willing to go there.
And I think that's the big question. Like you said earlier, why not be more inquisitive? I think the same would be true on the questioning of the dynamic.
No matter what the gender is, no matter what the sex is, I give her a hard time sometimes about the fact that it requires a curiosity to go there. Like, a curiosity is required to go there, because if you don't want to have the conversation, if you're not curious enough, then you're just like, whatever. So are you saying that men need to have a curiosity for what's going on with the women in their lives before they bring stuff to them?
Yes, but what I'm not saying is it's not solely on a man. So I don't want to say, it's if he would be more curious, then this wouldn't happen. That's not what I'm trying to communicate.
Are you saying that the lady in the comments should have said we all need to go to therapy then? Maybe that would have
I mean, yeah,
sounded better. Like, hey, look, we
yeah.
all need to go to therapy.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think what I am trying to say is that if that is what you are experiencing in your relationship, whether you're on the male or the female side, there is more a dynamic between the two of you, a communication dynamic, a quote, if you want to call it quote unquote safe space dynamic, that probably requires some curiosity into one another, not just one sided. So what I don't want it to, because I got a little flustered because it felt like, well, if women would just be quiet and hear us, then we would be better. Like it's not on the woman. It's co-created. So you're both going to have to, I think if you are experienced, like this is a hard conversation for us. This is not easy. This was not a comfortable conversation. Not because I don't want to hear your feelings, because it can feel like it's a one-sided and or blame game or tit for tat kind of thing. And those conversations make me extremely uncomfortable because I just don't see a win in it. And when I mean a win, I don't mean a win on one side. I mean like there's no end game. There's no resolution. It's just, all right, you're in your camp, I'm in mine. And so what I am saying is I think that that's a good place to start for men, but I don't want it to be heard that I'm saying it's all on the man. It's not all on the man. I think one person has to want the change. Now, I think one person has to want the change. And if a man truly wants that, he might have to be the one to make the first move.
So what if a woman really wants that?
She might have to be the first one to make the first move.
And what is that first? So what does that first move look like for us?
I think one, getting clear as to like what your partner and specifically you find as hearing, like what you identify, like what signals you've been heard, right? So you don't like the commiserating. You said that earlier. Okay, then that would not be something that I would bring to you. Like if you said, I'm really struggling in this area in parenting or whatever, like I've had a really hard, and I'm like, I've been experiencing that same thing. Okay, baby. If I were to say that, you're okay, baby. We're good. You're good. If I were to say that, I realize now that probably is not helpful for you. Mm-hmm. I did not know that before this conversation. Mm-hmm. In my world, in my mind, that's like my sisters and I, when we commiserate or talk about our weeks or what we're struggling with, we go back and forth about like, hey, the areas we're struggling in and what we're seeing, and like, oh yeah, I felt that in this area too, or whatever, realizing that that's not helpful for you. So a little bit, it's me learning my partner. It's me learning what speaks to you, because there may be men out there be like, no, I would get that. I would get that if she did that.
Right. For sure. She's empathizing by sharing her own experiences. But and you're right. I'm not the spokesperson for all men. I feel like the men I speak for, the ones who want to be heard without it turning into like same. Like, let me tell you about mine. It's like, can we sit in mine for a second? And not that I'm looking for answers, but like it's almost like I want to be heard with, and you may say, well, hey, look, can I dig more into that? Cool. But like, look, I want to start with being heard by you.
But what does being heard look like? Being heard is not that seems like it's an action. But gotcha. How do you know that I'm hearing you?
Right. So sometimes being heard sounds like, okay, so let me repeat back to you what I just heard from you. What you're saying is that when, I approach certain things and I bring them to you or whatever the case may be, that intensifies, or that may put a battery in my back, or that may put a battery in your back whenever I do this or say this to you, or whenever I address things like this. And I can then be like, okay, yes, you heard me. Yes, that's exactly how I feel. And so then you can maybe start to ask questions like, okay, not so much what can I do, or it can go there, but it can be like, well, where in your past, and not, I know we hate we are not each other's therapists, but sometimes there is a curiosity, as we were talking earlier, that says, what does it speak to you when I share my story? And I can say, well, what that speaks to me is that, like, you heard me, but you then pivoted to share how that looks for you. And I want to, I think that matters. I think how it pivots or how it matters to you, or what you're hearing that speaks to your own story is good, but I don't want your story to, like, overshadow, because I start to feel like your story overshadows mine, and that mine doesn't matter. Not saying you say that, but it can feel like it doesn't matter. Like if a person's like, oh well, let me one up you, like let me
Well,
tell you,
the
like, how heavy it is on me.
well, the one thing I do want to caution, I don't think it's caution's the right word, but the one thing I will say, nothing screams louder than a person who feels unheard. So if you are going to a person, male or female, in a relationship who already feels unheard, and you're asking them to hear you, they're probably going to yell louder. And here's what I mean by that. Like and so I would say the start may not be like, I'm trying to form this thought as we're talking, which is not the easiest. I guess we're going to use a male coming to a female, because that's what I'm going to stick with that example, because that's what we've been mainly talking about. If you've come to a woman who feels like she is completely unheard, like if there is no space that she has been heard, and then you are coming and asking her to create a space for you to be heard, I think she sees it maybe as an opportunity to finally be heard as well.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying she's justified. I'm not saying that he's wrong. I am highlighting that sometimes, again, I say it's a symptom. If she begins to holler loudly about what she feels like she's not heard in, is there space to say, do you feel like you're not heard? Is there space to that? I say it's not one or the other. I think it's a co-created relationship.
Okay, so tell me, hold on. I'm smiling right now because
I can't see
I
you.
hear a friend of mine echoing in my ear right now, and I just heard him through what you just said. And not to take a sidebar, I get what you're saying. And I'll tell you why I'm smiling, because I was like, we started this podcast, and I thought that, I was going to have to kind of carry it, and and maybe Amber might join in. She might have some things to say, but I've been surprised that, she actually has a lot to share. And I was like, yeah, that surprises me. He was like, why? He said, you have a whole podcast where you and other men sit down and y'all are heard all day long. But do you think that she also needs to be heard, and that you downplayed the importance or all the things that she wanted to say or needs to be heard in? And I literally, as you said that, I heard him as well, because I know you're right about that, in that, yes, if I am coming to you to be heard, but I have not created space for you to be heard and to respond to what I hear from you, then it's almost like, oh, so you just like you need this, but I sit over here holding on to all the things that have yet to be heard from me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to bring something else into it that I think that's an interesting take that I don't know what friend you're talking about, but that's very
interesting. He knows who
he
is.
You know who you are. But the other thing is, and I can imagine some people being like, okay, but I do hear her. And I also, again, let's just say you feel like, okay, well, I am in a relationship where I do give her a voice. And so then maybe it's not you. What if, is she going into a male dominated field where she is like not heard, and then she comes home and she feels like, I think there is, and maybe she just doesn't recognize it. Maybe it's like, hey, I think you're bringing that into our relationship or our marriage. Women are not above like misappropriating or kind of like almost taking it out on the wrong part, right? I think societally women feel like we're not heard oftentimes. And we often hear from our partners, you're always heard. And it's like, no one, like, no, like, we're not heard. And so I think there is this tension of like, how can you create a world in your relationship, forget outside, where you and your partner feel heard? And I think that really comes down to getting to know your partner and getting to know what makes your partner feel heard. Because I think it looks different for everyone. And there's probably some baggage that comes either from family, from past relationships, from your relationship that exists now, maybe from being, and also in here, and I love men to death, so I'm not saying this, but men are used to being heard. In the workplace, men in the world, like, men are used to being heard. They are.
Okay.
And now, I think when there's race component, there's socioeconomic components that I think play into that. So some men are heard more prominently than others.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in general, men are more, historically speaking, have had more of a platform to be heard.
Okay. Okay, well, can I just
Sure.
slide this in there though?
Yeah.
But we're not even talking about the things that we're normally heard of, because like I can say a lot of things at work, I can say a lot of things around my friends, but like what about the things that nobody hears because I don't talk about it, I don't really go there, this is the vulnerable stuff,
Right,
that I want to bring to somebody, but it just stays dormant in me if I don't go find a therapist, or I don't find safety with the person that this world has told me that I can't trust.
correct.
So I tend to like believe that I can't trust you. But what if I've gotten to a point where maybe I haven't sought out a therapist, but I need to find the safety to say something because it is killing me inside, and everybody is experiencing the spillover of what I won't address because I am exploding everywhere. I'm having explosions at work. I'm having explosions around my friends. Everybody's experiencing me. And so it's like you come to me and and I'd love to say that you'd come to me and be like, okay, what's really wrong? If you knew to even say that. But let's say you don't know to say that. And I'm like, I'm not doing good.
Well, and I will say, I've heard, we don't use this, but I've even heard other people saying like, hey, we have a code word. And it's like, hey, this means that I just need you to listen and hear me. And I need you just to give me the space to do that right now. I don't need to fix it. I don't need advice. I don't need what you really meant by this or how you feel. Cause sometimes, that's what I was gonna say. Sometimes I feel like sometimes women are like, oh, I've got to defend myself because I'm not like, that's not what I meant or whatever. Like there's a defense that comes in. I have heard of couples. I again, this is not something you and I have utilized. It might not be a bad idea, but like having each of you have a word that is not charged, right? There's no attachment to that word. So something as crazy as like bananas, I don't know. But it just signifies to the other person, like, this is the space I'm asking for. And this is what I need.
Right. I'm listening.
And I know. And so I wonder if someone finds himself being like, hey, like, I would like to create that. Cause I agree with you. Men are heard more in the world, but not about their feelings and not about like their disappointments. And I mean, there's a reason why among middle-aged men, among middle-aged men are like one of the highest suicidal rates, I think is, and I think that's still applicable. I know it was a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't in no way am I saying like, oh, you guys have all this. I don't think in those areas you have spaces. And I think your partner your wife should be that safe space. I don't necessarily, I think when you have someone when you're entering or when you're coming into a conversation to someone who feels like they've never been heard and they have this perception that you're always heard, even if there's one area you're not, that's sometimes a hurdle you have to figure out how to jump.
Yeah,
and so
that's a good point.
I think where the conversation has frustrated me in the past is because it feels like there's no room for growth. Yes, maybe. There's no room for growth. And I feel like that can be like, it's always like, yeah, women just don't hear us. And it's like, okay, but okay. And is it that, or is it we just haven't quite?
We have road assist on our car. So I promise we're safe right now. Continue. I'm listening.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that would be, I don't know. That's kind of where, can you get, hold on, Harley. There you go. Yeah. So I think that would be my, I guess my opinion on, I mean, I don't think either side's wrong or right. I think it's more of like, hey, are we willing to learn one another, or are we just going to complain about it? Are we willing to learn our partners and work towards, I think this is what they say when they say relationships or marriage takes work, because I think we want it to just be natural. And I don't think when you put two people together with all their assumptions and all their past and all their experiences, I don't think even in friendship it's just natural. I think it still requires a little bit of, let me learn you. I'm never going to fully know you. There's always going to be depths to you that I'm going to have to learn.
Yeah. I sit here and I think about the people who are like, well, marriage, friendship shouldn't take work. And I'm like, okay. And so then what that leads me to believe is that there's something wrong with mine, because it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of these conversations, and it takes intermissions where it's like, we started this like in the first hour of this conversation, and like there was a whole 3 hours where we had to have a sidebar conversation because there was work that needed to be done that got us back here. Like, because I think when we started this conversation, like you said, there was a lot there that almost like it hadn't been heard. I'm sure nobody noticed, but like there was a lot there that
I'm
like
really good at it. I can't see your face, but I can imagine what you're doing
but
right
so
now.
It's like yeah, I mean,
I'm owning it. I'm not like denying
no, it's cool. No, I mean, I think that a lot of times, as you just said, it's like y'all want to be heard. What about like the fact you said it like y'all are always heard, but it's like it's not necessarily the things that everybody else hears. It's the things that nobody else hears, and we don't know where to take it, where to go with it. And that doesn't mean that like open the floodgate and let me in now and let me be heard now once again, because I think it's equally important that you're heard as well. And I think sometimes, if nothing else, somebody's got to it sounds crazy, so let me maybe read. No, yeah, someone's got to begin to create what they want from their partner as their partner gets it. Like,
yeah, but I think you have to be very clear with what, again, I still think like I think you still have to learn, and it's going to take trial and error, number one, but I think you still have to learn what I feel like being heard means. What if someone being heard to one person, right. It doesn't mean the same thing to you as it does to me.
Nope, yep, you're right.
And so if I don't know that, just creating heard the way I want it to look for me doesn't mean that it's translating to that other person as being heard.
For sure, because I will agree. Like, being heard for me sounds like a podcast where I'm the star of the podcast and you're the host, and you're actually like
asking questions.
Yes, you're
which is something we struggle with, because I don't push people with questions. And where I view it and interpret it as pushing, you view it as curiosity. And it is something we are actively working on that I am admittedly not great at, and I'm learning.
Yeah.
And so, and there's a myriad of reasons, but we don't have to go into those. I think that sometimes learning what that, like actually stopping and saying, okay, this is what it looks like for me to be heard. And then me turning around and say, okay, well, this is what it looks like for me to be heard.
Right.
Those two things Are you about to put those on?
Continue.
Okay. I can't take you serious with the pink.
You can't take me serious wearing your glasses? These are your glasses.
I know.
You can't take me serious. Continue.
Anyways,
Continue.
okay,
What are you
sorry.
saying?
But I think that, so I do think that yes, you can create that space, but again, that doesn't mean that the space you're creating is translating to them as being heard. We are all unique. And I think our blueprint, like for me, being peppered with questions is honestly like an interrogation. That doesn't feel great to me. That doesn't feel like being heard. That feels like you're like picking me apart. But for you, it feels like I'm actually interested and I'm being inquisitive. That if you were to do that to me, I am not translating as, oh, he is hearing me. I'm just going to be honest.
Why do you think I'm in love with our therapist? Why?
Oh,
because no. You're right. When a person peppers you with something, you're right. That sounds bad off the gate. No, he is so lovingly curious. And
yeah, but I don't really love that. I pay him for that, but I don't really love that. I told him last week. I literally said the last session. I said this was nice to not go home and feel like I am just completely exposed. Like that is tiring for me emotionally and physically and spiritually. Like that can be
being exposed.
Great, but you have a different history with that than I do. With being exposed, there is a lot that comes with. There was a lot of trauma that came along with being exposed. Okay, put your shirt down. We are on camera. You can't do that. Anyways, it's inappropriate.
I just said that I like being exposed.
Okay, I am having a real. But I'm just saying.
But no, I get what you're saying.
Exposed,
yes, but you just said it's like peppered.
But you have to realize that when
you
a few years ago, when you exposed yourself, it came with freedom. Exposure has never come with freedom for me. Exposure and freedom have never come hand in hand.
Oh, snap. Wait. So let's be correct though. Like it started with God exposing me and
Correct.
then me exposing myself.
Correct.
And what did I saw that it would bring about freedom, but I knew that freedom, yes. Freedom was the byproduct of
Correct.
the exposure.
You learned.
So I learned that. I realized that. And so a lot of people are like, well, I don't understand how you can be so vulnerable. And it's because there's freedom in it. But you're saying that you've never experienced freedom in sharing. And I
don't want to say that I've never experienced. I'm learning. Okay. I am learning and I am experiencing it. But for a long time, exposure equaled shame. Like when you were exposed for the sin or when you were exposed for doing something wrong in the religion that I grew up with, it was not met with freedom.
Right.
It was met with shame and it was met with consequences and it was met with there wasn't freedom in that.
Right.
And so where yes, I pay him, our therapist, I pay our therapist to do that. There is a level of exhaustion and overwhelmingness that I experience from that. So if I am in a vulnerable moment of already feeling heavy or overwhelmed, and then I'm coming to you just to be heard and you respond in that manner, I feel like I'm being more exposed and more overwhelmed. And then it becomes unbearable for me. So I don't feel heard at that point. I feel more burdened. Doesn't make what you're doing wrong. Doesn't make my response wrong. It just is the baggage I'm coming into the marriage with is not reacting well to what you have experienced. And so you're trying to hear me. It's not that you're not, but I've told you this. It's like, I feel like I'm being like picked, like I'm being interrogated when really what I sometimes need is just a hug, or sometimes I just need someone to just hear me out. And it's not that there's not going to be a time for questions and there's not going to be a time, but right there in that exposure, I need to feel safe because exposure has never felt safe to me. So if I'm coming to be heard and to expose myself, I need it first to feel safe. So So I think that knowing and getting to know that about your partner, which I feel like we're actually doing right now, because that's not necessarily something we knew.
I keep telling you these conversations aren't for them; they're
No,
for
I
us.
know,
But
I
yeah,
know.
no, I
But
get
I
it.
do think that's a part of, like, yes, you can say, well, I'm creating spaces where I'm getting heard and she's just not reacting or doing the same to me. It's
Yeah.
because it's a different language. You're speaking a different language to her. And maybe you lucked up and you have a partner whose hearing language or being heard language is the same as yours, and that's amazing. I would say for
Congratulations.
yeah, I would say probably for most of us that's
I
not
didn't
the
get
case.
that.
Whoa.
I mean, I didn't.
That was aggressive.
Sorry.
But I'm just saying, I think for most people, that's not going to be the case.
Right.
Especially if you met your partner later on in life and maybe there was relationships before, or maybe you have baggage in your marriage and your relationship that you guys have maybe even created together, right? Like you and I have baggage that we created together that may be at play. And or maybe you're fresh to a relationship or fresh to a marriage and you're like, but we didn't create this and it's coming from previous or whatever. I think it can be very layered. Again, I say it's a symptom. It's a symptom to something that maybe needs to be picked through. It's going to take a lot of trial and error. It's going to take a lot of uncomfortableness. For me, it takes a lot of tears, and it ends up costing me a lot of tears, which in the end is totally worth it. But I think previously I would not have said it was worth it. I would have said, okay, I can just carry this. I don't need to be vulnerable. I don't need you to hear me. I'm fine. Like, I don't need to feel exposed and then unsafe. Like, I'm good. I wouldn't have even taken the chance. I think therapy has taught me that it's okay to take the chance. Because there can be healing, there can be, I don't want to say resolution, but possibly resolution on the other side.
Yeah, but I don't even think it's about the resolution. I think it's about the journey.
Yeah, but I think that when your journey has always led you to shame, I'm good on that. I don't need that journey.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm realizing, but you know what though? It's funny you say when your journey has led you to shame. I realize though that a lot of times the journey is not about leading you to shame, it's about leading you through shame. And that a lot of the things that I have been ashamed of, if I didn't say it out loud, if I didn't expose it to others, then I was stuck in that shame cycle of like, okay, but if it is less about if they hear about it, it's like if they do ever know, if she ever knows this about me, then oh my goodness, like I cannot let that. And so that keeps me running away from you instead of running to you with this thing, not so much to expose it, but like I gotta go through this. So that I can find the freedom and stop allowing this shameful moment to control me in this relationship. Not so much of what happens if it gets out, but like daily recognizing that if she finds out, I'm done for.
Well, and even for that, like, even in like something, maybe it's not something you've done. Maybe it's like, hey, I'm feeling like I'm not as successful as I want to be at my job, but there's shame for that, right? And so I think going back to the original, like even the topic, like when a man brings that to a female or his wife, and then she's not hearing him, and it does feel like she's either turning it back on him or not creating a safe space for that, then he goes back in and he just stays in the shame, right? Like you don't get to the end of the other side of the shame.
Right. Oh no, now you go back and sit in it.
Right, now you go back and sit in it and you're stuck. Like the journey has led you to shame and stopped you at shame. Like you're in, you didn't walk through it. And so I think that there is something to be said about creating a dynamic in a marriage of, hey, we can sit in this and move through this together. I just don't think it's as black and white as conversations on the internet. Like it's not as simple as men go to therapy and heal. It's also not as simple as women just sit and listen to your men. It's not that simple. It's much more layered, and it's just a symptom. And if you're not willing to wade through the actual, like the like think about it. When you go to the doctor with a symptom, nowadays most doctors will throw medicine at you, right? But sometimes it's like, well, what's it coming from? That often takes lab works. That takes different scans, that takes multiple visits, that takes all this work to figure out what the actual underlying problem is.
Right. Okay.
I think we have to approach the relationship the same.
Right. Okay. So then let me say this then. in all of that, and I agree with everything you said, and you're right. That I think the beauty of it is that we have the conversations not so much because I was listening to hopefully find a answer to go back to my lady with, or go back to my husband with, but like in all of this, then I think this is allowed not so much an answer of like why is it that you can't listen, but like now you recognize how when I share something, how I want to be heard, and not so much just how I want to be heard, but like you also recognize that what you may hear may trigger you. It may push you to have to listen more attentively in the hurt that what I may be saying may bring up. And it won't be perfect. I guess I can't expect perfection. Like, but you can still recognize that it doesn't change the fact that I would like to be heard, no matter how triggering what I may be saying may feel on your side. And it also doesn't downplay that there probably will be a follow-up conversation to not just like how I got here, how that lands on me, or how I feel and all that stuff, but also like what that exposed you to and how that landed on you. But it's like, and I know I've done this as a parent, like just because she hit you don't mean you get to go back to an old thing and bring that back up right now. This isn't like a tit for tat. This is like you were wrong for hitting your brother. So let's stop there. This is not about what he did last week. Well, he hit me last week. Yeah, but like that can be true too. But like right now we're addressing the situation at hand. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yes, I do. I think that there is something to be said, though, then if there was a situation last week that happened, then there was a responsibility in the relationship to address that situation when it happened, not wait until
right. But
the
know that like
comes up.
Right. But know that I may trigger up a situation that happened 5 years ago.
I do think that there is something to be said. Like you have to learn your triggers and things like that. I think it's a trial and error. I don't think it's going to happen perfectly ever. And you may not realize like, oh, I didn't even know that was still a trigger that I was dealing with.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be grace in a relationship to allow that to happen, and it not to be like, see, you never listened to me. You never wanted to hear me, and then walk away. I think it's the same thing. Like
just for the record though, do you feel like the times in which I trigger you are bad situations on my behalf and shame on me for triggering you?
No, I mean, I think, no.
Okay.
I think my triggers are my triggers, your triggers are your like, I think you have to own your own triggers. I just don't think everyone is always, depending on where you're at, I don't think everyone is yet aware of their triggers. And so I think there's a learning curve into that you have to give a little grace into. Now, if someone's asking you to take responsibility for their triggers, I think that's a different conversation to be had. I don't think you cannot be responsible for someone else's triggers. And I think it's unfair to I know people who purposely press triggers for other people because they know it'll get a rise out of them. I don't think that's fair either. Huh?
No, that's fair. No, you're right.
I don't think there's no scenario that doesn't create safety. If you're trying to create safety and that's what you're doing,
good point.
You can't sit there and say she doesn't listen to me when you do that. There are people
I like to press her buttons just to get her
riled up, like in a non-confrontational space.
Vice versa. I mean, it could work on either person.
Yes, yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I guess we're just talking about
yeah, for sure.
But yes, I think that anyone can do that, male or female, because it sometimes can be like a joking thing where but I can kind of get a dig in here just to kind of like let off some steam. I think you can't then be mad.
The situation at the moment. Like,
well, I don't think
I like gut punching you every once in a while, but it's like
not
when
about
I'm
certain
expecting.
things.
No, for sure. But
there are limits. There's boundaries
to
that.
For sure.
And I think sometimes I can be like, hey, too far. And I can set that boundary. Like, hey, that one was too far for me.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
but all in all, I think the goal can be that, or it should be, I don't like should, but there is a goal of like, hey, I want to have an open, honest relationship. I think the way that we create this perfect picture and how that comes about is where we might need to adjust our expectations. Like,
Right.
you and I had this conversation of this thought of like, they would, if they wanted to, they would.
Oh, we're gonna go there today.
No.
We're
We're
gonna
gonna,
for another conversation.
yes, we will. If they wanted to, they would. I think a lot of women and men can bring that to a relationship and apply that into these. Well, if they wanted to create it, if they wanted to listen to me, they would. I don't necessarily believe that. I think that
and that wraps up this conversation. Yeah. Hey, thank you so much. If you're looking forward to that conversation, that'll be on the next track.
We should do a whole conversation. I think we could have a good conversation.
Oh, if they wanted to, they would. Man, listen.
I've never read the book, but yes. Maybe
well, it's not a book. It's not a book. You're talking about the book. That's not the book.
Oh, I thought there was a book that goes with that.
The one. No, there's a book of Let Them. That's
no, I know that one, but I thought there was another one.
If they wanted to, they would. No, we'll have to look that up. If there is a book, maybe we'll
read it before we actually have the conversation. Sure. But either way, I think two things can be true. Yes, this can be a real experience men are having, and we can validate that. And
hold on. It is a real experience that men are having.
No, I said it is.
Okay. I thought you said it. Okay, I got you. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying both things can. This is where I think it hypes me up because you get so defensive about this. Both things can be true. That this is the real experience men are having, and we can validate that and acknowledge that and have conversations about that. Mm-hmm. And there has to be a little ownership that this is a co-created dynamic that needs to be addressed between two partners. If you want this to change, it's not going to be, well, if women would just do or if men would just do, then I don't think there is a blanketed statement that can be applied here. I think it is, if both want to create that dynamic, then both are going to have to kind of buffer that out.
Right.
And it's not going to be pretty.
It's good. Oh, that's fair. I think that's valid.
As
we just
this
did.
Conversation.
As we just did. If you watch from the beginning, yes.
I'm actually scared to watch from the beginning because I was a little aggravated at the beginning. This conversation aggravates me.
No, nobody saw that.
Yes, and there is an underlying message in this conversation. There's a lot that goes into this conversation for me. But yes.
I would say is that 90% of the conversations that we have that I pick?
I will say probably yes, because a lot of the conversations you pick, I wouldn't say all of them. Some of them, I think will get a rise out of me. That's what I say. I feel like you're baiting me a little bit. I feel like they get a rise out of me, and so I will be more vocal on them maybe, because when you bait me, unfortunately I take the bait.
Why is it that I have to be baiting you? Why can't it be that this is truly a conversation that God wants us to have?
No, maybe, and that could be true. Maybe I'm just not as cooperative, and so God knows you have to bait me. I don't know. The other thing is, though, this conversation was used, and we will have to address our separation at one point on an episode, but this conversation was used as almost a justification for some things that happened in our relationship.
I didn't even think about that.
And like, I was not a safe place, and so every time this comes up, it's like, here we go again. I've done all, like, we're going to therapy. I'm working so hard to learn how to do this, and it's still never enough because men never get heard. And so, yes, it is.
Well, why are you the responsibility for all men, not just this man? I don't think you're
well, because my man keeps bringing it to me, and so it's like, I'm still not doing it, even though I'm actively attempting to learn how to do this better for you, not for all men.
I think that's why she's still going to therapy, because she still believes that she's not doing it well because it keeps being brought up instead of it just being brought up,
but yes,
and us talking about it, even though it's not really hers to fully own for every man, because just because two other men were talking about it doesn't mean that it's her fault that no women are doing it. It just means that it can bring up remnants of a past where maybe I didn't do that well. And that goes for both of us. So I don't think when we hear things on social media, speaking to you, that it means that you still fell at it. And that's why I'm bringing it to you. I'm just listening to how men, women are still engaging with situations in their lives and that may still be relevant to our lives, but not still get the same outcome or the same response. It's just something that a lot of people are still having trouble with. So as you said, hey, look, sometimes me and my sisters, we like to talk about things, and then I'll say, well, you know what? It's the same thing. I'm showcasing how others are also struggling with this, not to say, hey, you're struggling with this and look, but it's like, see, we're not the only ones. Right?
Yeah, no, I'm processing. You said a lot there. I was just trying to process it all. Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I think, yes, I think when I see, yeah,
it doesn't hit the same. I know it doesn't hit the same, because it's like if your sister was to do the same thing and share a similar situation and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I don't feel alone. But in this situation, sometimes it speaks to you that like, oh wait, are you trying to say that like I still struggle at that? And that's
no,
probably,
I don't think,
and then by the way, I didn't see that in the beginning.
Yeah,
You just now said this.
I don't think it necessarily signifies that I still struggle with that. I feel like it feels like it's just a narrative that I'm never going to get away from. And it's like, okay, I think it's and probably there's, if I really sat down and dug deep and exposed it all, probably there's a little bit of fear, like, okay, am I gonna, if I'm not doing this well, are we gonna end up where we were 5 years ago, or how many years ago that was? I think it's almost 5 years ago. Like, are we gonna end up back there? If I can't get this right, is this on me? Because the tone of the conversation you sent was, because even the guy at the end said, I mean, these are men who really love their wives, and this is what they can't get this from them. And it's like, okay, so if you love us hard enough, is that like, is that what's supposed to somehow magically make us know how to hear you? Like, it just feels like there is like a no win in this, even after all the work we've put into it. Not just me, but we've put into it. And it's like,
but maybe it took like conversations like this for you to say, oh, so now I understand how you want, how you need, how you desire to be heard, and how it signifies to you that you are being heard. Maybe if that doesn't happen, and not saying that that's the answer for all, but I'm just saying, like, I think that now, like, if we were to go into a conversation, not to say we'd get it perfect still, but it would require maybe you to be intentional to say, wait, that's right. In order for him to be heard, I need to maybe even repeat back what I just heard. I may need to inquire and have questions, if there are truly questions that I am curious about now, about what allow me to kind of get more intel, be more curious about what he's saying and about what he's feeling, because I'm sure he's not sharing this with any and everybody. If he could, he would. So if he's coming to me with this, then it means that this is a moment and an opportunity for us to grow, because he's got plenty of men around him.
yeah.
So if he's bringing this to me, then it's not like he ran out of people to talk to about this.
Yeah, but again, I will, yes, absolutely, and I think it's a learning curve. I don't.
No, yeah, that's what I just said. I said, it's not going to be perfect.
Yes, right. But when I say it's not going to be perfect, I mean it's a learning curve.
All right, guys, bye now. We'll see y'all in the next episode. Oh no, I was in this. All right now,
Harley, what do we say?
In this out of this.
How do we get out of here? Say, see you next time. What do you want to say? Nothing?
Okay, all right. That's it. Later, guys.